Do you want to know a secret? Move with me inside the strange world of the 12-inch.
Hey, hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all doing really well out there, wherever you might be in this whole wide world. Yes, because we now reached my favorite day of the week, the crescendo of the week if you want, or, as I used to say, your gateway into the weekend. It is Friday, folks.
Give me a motherfucking break.
Without you, I'm driving lost in a stare. Without you, I feel like I'm running scared. Since you're gone, I haven't bothered to comb my hair on Friday night. But Friday night's gonna be alright. It's gonna be right. It's gonna be alright now, baby. Friday night's gonna be alright. It's gonna be right. It's gonna be alright now, baby. So get ready for Friday night.
Yes, we are up and running for this Friday night, and all thanks to Danny from the Kids from Fame. As usual, he gives us that extra boost of energy that we need going into the weekend. I hope you feel it too. Yeah. So, the topic for this Friday night is going to be the 12-inch single. Yes, my favorite format of them all, the 12-inch single, or the maxi single. That's how I got acquainted with them when I grew up as a teenager in Sweden, because most of the 12 inches we picked up, it said maxi single, 45 RPM or something like that on them. So they became maxi singles for me, but it's the same thing, really. Some people might debate it's really not, but hey, it's maxi singles or 12-inch singles. Yeah, I have thousands of records in my record collection, but I have more 12-inch singles than any other format, than albums, CDs, 7 inches, all of it. It's 12 inches that rules this collection, really. I loved them ever since I was a teenager, starting collecting records. I bought my favorite single from a band or an artist, and I had the 7-inch, and I was just longing for the day when I could save up enough money to go out and buy the 12-inch single of that song, because I knew that I was going to get a longer version of it, and hopefully a better version as well. But yeah, when it comes to the length, longer is not always better. I learned that the hard way in my teenage years, starting to collecting Frankie Goes to Hollywood records, and the grail for me was the original mix of Relax, and it was really hard to come by. I don't know how it is today, but back then it really was. So once I managed to hunt one down, I paid a lot of money for it, considering just being a teenager, not having a steady income. I saved up a lot of money to buy this one, and I was so disappointed when I started listening to it. So yeah, longer is not always better. That was just one example of them. But usually you did get a really decent extended version or a remix of your favorite single, and I just loved it. And when you flipped it over, usually on the B-side, you got the original B-side from the 7-inch single, and also one or two tracks that were unique for that 7 or 12-inch single, non-album tracks sometimes. So yeah, you got a lot of things for your money, really. And that's why I still love the 12-inch format. It's bigger, better, longer. Yeah, it could be debated, all of that, of course, for some 12-inch singles, but for most cases it is bigger, longer and better. Yeah. So this is in celebration of this wonderful, wonderful format. So I set out some criteria for myself. I started this journey over 6 months ago, going through nearly every 12-inch single that I have here in my collection. Started listening through them, and what a pleasure it's been, I have to say. I found out a couple of gems, things I nearly forgot about, and some of them I really re-evaluated, because back in the day when I bought some of these, I thought, yeah, it was okay, but listening to some of them today, I'm like, wow, this is some really good stuff, right? So, yeah, it's been a real pleasure to go through all of this, but it's been a really long journey for me to try to find out my favorite 12-inch singles, because I also set out for myself to just list 10 of my favorite 12-inch singles. And that hasn't been easy at all. I mean, there's so many good 12-inch mixes out there, and yeah, it was hard. That list has been changing from month to month. There's only been one constant, because there was one 12-inch single that is my absolute favorite of all time, and it just stayed on every list, every iteration of the list that I did throughout the month. Yeah. So it's been a bit frustrating, but also fun, of course. And now I reach my conclusion. So I set out to myself to present to you my top 10 favorite 12-inch singles. And to narrow things down a bit more, because I could have done a real deep dive into a lot of the 12-inch singles that I bought during the 1990s, when I was listening to a lot of techno and house and things like that. And there are some brilliant 12 inches from that period. But I excluded them, because most of them were only released as 12-inch singles. So maybe I will do a separate episode when it comes to the house and techno 12 inches that I have. But I have excluded them for this episode, just to narrow things down a bit more. So I also set out for myself, it has to be a 12-inch single that I have in my collection, of course. And it also has to be issued as a single at one point or another. So there has to be an original version, if you know what I mean. That was the other criteria. And also the ones that I picked for this video, the 10, it really has to exceed that original version. Really need to exceed that original version. It needs to be something really mind-blowing, even now in 2026 when I was listening back to them. So yeah, I think I came up with a really good list here, but like I said, I could have picked 200, probably. That was my favorite ones, but I narrow it down to 10, so I'm going to present them here to you. And I also want to hear from you guys. What are your favorite 12-inch singles of all time? And that's why we have the comment section. Put all those lists down there in the comment section. I would love to read about them. Yeah. So now, without any further ado, we're going to go through my 10 favorite 12-inch singles or maxi singles of all time. Yeah, absolutely. But in my opinion, remember that. Yeah. And I will try not to stay too long on each and every record here. I will try. I won't promise you anything, but I will try not to make this too lengthy of a video. I know I said that so many times, but I fail most of the times. By the way, I forgot to say this, it's not a ranking really. It's only the last 12-inch that I'm going to present to you is the one that I mentioned before, my absolute favorite. We can consider that number one, but the other ones are without ranking really, because I can't really rank them. There is like ranking your children or your pets. You can't really do that. It's not fair to anyone. They're equally brilliant. Yeah, so the first one I'm going to show here to you is from a Swedish artist, very well known because she was part of a huge band from Sweden. I'm of course talking about Frida and Shine from 1984. Also from the album by the same name, Shine. Yes, it was a second solo effort after leaving ABBA, and she did some really good stuff back in the 80s. I do believe this was a last effort from her in the 1980s when it came to the solo projects. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think so. When this one was released back in 1984, I thought it was an okay single. I wasn't really blown away by it. But then a friend of mine picked up this one, not this one, but a similar one, a special maxi version of Shine. And I remember when I heard it for the first time, I was like, what is this? Is this really Frida and Shine? Because it starts out in a very minimal way with a thumping beat with a bass line that thumps along with that beat. Very reminiscent to Relax by Frankie Goes to Hollywood, actually. And I was mesmerized by this. And then slowly but surely it builds on with some elements from the original version. And of course Frida's voice come in here and there. But it's an absolutely banger of a maxi version in this case. It is so good, and listening back to this one in 2026, because I haven't heard this one for years now. It's just been sitting here in my collection, and when I put it on, I didn't have high hopes really. I was like, yeah, it's Shine, it's an okay track. But then the memories came flooding back, and listening to it now is like, wow, they really did something special with this version of Shine. And as you can see here on the cover itself, it's 6 minutes and 27 seconds. Yeah, the maxi version. Yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff. And I can't see anywhere here in the credits on the back who actually mixed this one, but it is produced by Stevie Lillywhite, who at the time I think was married to Kirsty MacColl, and she is also part of this record because she adds her vocals, some background vocals to this one, and also wrote or co-wrote the B-side on this one. That's Tough. Another great track. But the main track here, Shine, is what matters here, the maxi version. And I have a suspicion it's actually Steve Lillywhite himself who mixed this one. If anyone knows anything else, because I couldn't find anything on the internet around this, please correct me and state the correct mixer for this one. But I do believe it's Steve Lillywhite. Whoever it is, did a absolutely great job with this one. It is a banger of a song. Could be played in clubs and discos back in the day. The only thing they really missed with this one is the outro, because everything else works so fine, but they decided to fade it in the end. They didn't give that breathing room for the DJs to just end on a simple percussion or a beat, really, so the DJs could mix over more easily to the next record. No, they just fade it out. Yeah, it's the only flaw really with this one. Yeah, it is on the Polydor label if anyone's interested, and plain black vinyl. Yeah, that's Frida and Shine. Absolutely stunning track. So if you haven't heard it, go and listen to it straight away and then come back here. Yeah. And the second one, we're going to stay in 1984 because 1984 was also the big breakdance, electric boogie craze. And everyone wanted to learn how to breakdance and do the electric boogie and all of that. And I was one of them, but not to any great success, I have to say. But I love the music. It was my introduction to electro, you might say, or high energy. It was a bit of a mixture of both, depending on what you were listening to. But this one, yeah, it falls in both categories in my book, at least. This is Irene Cara and breakdance. Yeah, it couldn't be more plain, really. It is a fantastic breakdance track. I can see before myself a lot of the kids back in the day was trying to breakdance to this one. I did most of my attempts at breakdancing to Break Machine.
Everywhere that you may go, we're jamming in the street.
Yeah. Street dance. Yeah, but also breakdance. I loved this single when it came out. But at the time, I only had the single in 1984. This one I picked up way after the fact, rummaging through some secondhand records one day. I came across this one. I was like, oh, it's breakdance on a 12-inch single. I have to pick that one up. I never heard it. So it does contain the extended remix and a dub mix on the B-side, and Cue Me Up, which was the original B-side, if I'm not misremembering things here, on the 7-inch. But the extended remix here, 5 minutes and 24 seconds of pure bliss. This is electro high energy combo of the highest order. It is of course produced by the brilliant Giorgio Moroder, so you can't go wrong with this one, and the wonderful voice of Irene Cara. And they just this is something that really all of these 12-inch singles that I'm going to showcase here today, and I forgot to say that about the Frida one, but it's very important to me, is that you recognize the song. You can still sing along with it. There's recognizable, they kept the choruses and the verses and all of that, right? So it's like listening to your favorite 7-inch single, but it's just longer, a bit remodeled. Yeah, you know what I mean. It's not chopped up into pieces and unrecognizable, really. I don't like that. But all of these singles have one thing in common, and it's just that they kept that essence of the original, and then they work with those other elements to present us a completely new version, but still recognizable from the original. I hope you know what I mean. Yeah. And this is exactly what this one does. It's just extended in a perfect way, with some breaks in the middle that we didn't hear on the original, where anyone who was breakdancing at the time would go absolutely bonkers, I imagine. You even get a guitar solo with this one. It is stunning stuff from Irene Cara and Giorgio Moroder. So that's why it's on this list. I still go bonkers when I hear this one. I'm not trying to breakdance these days, but yeah, I do put in a couple of dance steps here and there. Yeah. Let me tell you. For anyone who's interested, it was on the Epic label, and yeah, that's Irene Cara and Flashdance, I was about to say. It came from an album called What a Feeling. She had a lot of hits back then, so I think Flashdance was included on this one as well, if I'm not mistaken. But this was breakdance, not Flashdance. Yeah. Irene Cara, great stuff.
Do the jerk and the twist, but there just ain't never been nothing like this. Now popping and locking is a new way of talking. Things will work out for sure. Spinning out on the floor, break dancing, break out.
We have been lingering on 1984. We're going to go back one year to 1983 and to one of my favorite bands ever, and that is, of course, Depeche Mode. Yeah, 1983 was a formative era, really, for Depeche Mode, in lack of better words. They just came out of their second album, A Broken Frame. Vince Clarke has already left the band after the first album, and they started finding themselves. And they really found themselves with this single, Everything Counts, in larger amounts, as this one is called. Yeah, so this is, I believe it was the first single that was released leading up to their third album, Construction Time Again. And on Construction Time Again, and certainly on this one, you can find a different sounding Depeche Mode. It's a bit bleaker, darker, more industrial sounding. They found the love for sampling, for example, and I think the lyrics was taken up a couple of notches as well from the previous album. Yeah, so that's why I choose this one. When it comes to Depeche Mode, I could have chosen so many 12-inch singles because there's been so many great remixes throughout the years with the Depeche Mode, but when I was listening to this one, it stuck with me, and it's always been stuck in my mind ever since I heard it the first time back in the 1980s when I bought this one. And it is simply a great extended version of Everything Counts, as it's called here, in larger amounts. And I do believe it was the engineer, Gareth, I forgot his name now. It's not, is it Gareth Jones? I believe it's him who mixed this one. It's, of course, Daniel Miller was producing this one with Depeche Mode. But I think it's Gareth Jones. I have to correct myself if I got that wrong. I got a brain fart here. But yeah, I believe it's him who mixed this one, and he does such a great work with it. So if you ever heard Everything Counts, and I believe most people have, it's one of the staples of Depeche Mode nowadays when they're doing live concerts, for example. But it has this melody played on an instrument called the melodica, I think, where you blow into a tube to feed the organ itself. It's like a keyboard where you play things on. It's got a very specific sound. So it does contain that, and I think combined with an oboe sound, perhaps sampled, who knows. It kicks off with that melodica and I think the oboe as well. And then all of a sudden we're just flung into Everything Counts. Everything is remodeled, restructured by Gareth, as I assume, on this one, and but still contains, like I said with the previous ones, those essential elements from the original version or the single version. They do lift other elements that were perhaps way in the background in the original mix. They highlight them here, so it just becomes this restructured, wonderful mix of Everything Counts. And it ends on this melodica harmony, melody, as well, for a whole minute, nearly a whole minute at the end of his 12-inch. It's just broken down to that simple melody being played on the melodica, and we hear Martin Gore singing the chorus of Everything Counts. It's absolutely stunning stuff, and that's why I put it here on my top 10 list, really, because it is one of the better remixes of Depeche Mode out there, really. Absolutely stunning. And a wonderful cover as well. I love this cover. It doesn't say anywhere who actually did this drawing here, but it is absolutely fantastic stuff. They always had really good artwork done for their records, but this is up there with the best, I think. Really good stuff. And yeah, you do get a great B-side as well with Work Hard, a non-album track on this specific 12-inch single. It's called the East End Remix. No, East End Remix. Yeah, it was East End. I thought it said East and Remix. No, it's East End Remix. A pretty good track. A very metallic sounding track. It's not really up to par with the rest of the tracks from Construction Time Again, so that's probably why it ended up on a B-side, but I still appreciate it today. It's a bit of nostalgia for me, but it's, of course, Everything Counts in larger amounts that counts here, in any amount. And of course, yeah, it was on the Mute label. The Hand, the Grabbing Hand.
Everything counts in large amounts. Everything counts in large amounts.
And the next one, we're going to move forward now to 1989. And the big craze in 1989, how I remember it, and it was something that I was really looking forward to, that was the new Batman movie that came out that year. And who did the soundtrack for that Tim Burton movie? Well, it was Prince, yes. And I love that soundtrack. I still do. I loved the Bat Dance that came out, which was just a medley really of all the other songs on the soundtrack. But hey, wow. All the singles that came out of that album is just great. But this one stands apart from the rest of them when it comes to 12-inch singles. This is The Future by Prince, taken from that Batman soundtrack. And I've been showcasing this here before on my channel when I was talking about 12 inches, and I had a really hard time with the Prince records. I have a lot of Prince 12-inch singles in my collection, and I love all of them. But listening back to them, most of the extended versions, if we can call them that, or the full-length versions, are just basically jams with that Prince did. So, for example, America, the 21-minute version of that one, is just stunning stuff. I love it, the way he keeps the groove going for 21 minutes. And it's not even the full version, because rumor has it that the master tape just ran out. They didn't have more time. It was just, we just have to fade it here when we press it on vinyl, really. Yeah, so he could have gone on probably for an hour doing that one, and I love it. And the same goes for Mountains, for example, the 12-inch single. It's basically just the long jam, the longer version of it. But in this case, with The Future, he actually went outside and got someone else to remix him, and in this case it is Mark Moore of S-Express fame and William Orbit. They teamed together to remix The Future. And let me tell you, the bass line on this remix is to die for. This is one record that you need to crank up the volume for and just dance away. It is, or just appreciate the bass in it. And the sound and the way they remixed this one, I mean, it's a great track to begin with, but the way they restructured this track, they were far ahead of their time, in my opinion, at least, because this is 1989. And I mean, this sounds like it could have come out in 1995 or something like that. I think it was far ahead of its time. It is such a great groove. So yeah, highly recommend you go and look this one up. The Future by Prince, remixed by Mark Moore and William Orbit. And they also do a great job on the B-side. You can't really see the text here because it's written in dark blue against the black background for some reason. But it is Electric Chair, also just called Remix, but it's the same team who remixed that one. Electric Chair, another great track from the Batman album. Absolutely fantastic stuff. So yeah, absolutely go and check it out. And it was released on the Warner Bros label here, and I do think this specific 12-inch was only released here in Europe, at least to my recollection. You have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe it was.
This life after we will see. So I can't go like a jerk. Yellow Smiley offers me X, like it's drinking 7-Up. I would rather drink 6 razor blades from a paper cup. He can't understand, I say too tough. It's just that I've seen the future. Boy, it's rough. I have seen the future and it will be. I've seen the future and it works. If there's life after, we will see. So you can't go like a jerk. No.
Great stuff from Prince. But a hard choice. Like I said, there's so many great Prince 12 inches out there. Just like with Depeche Mode as well, as I mentioned before. Okay, let's crack on here. We're now going to go into the disco era, or even the future, really. This is one artist that I heard during the mid-90s, mid-80s really, a lot of times on the charts on the radio back in Sweden. I was like, yeah, this is good, yeah, that's good. But it wasn't really until the early 1990s that I really discovered Donna Summer and I Feel Love. And you might say, what? You didn't hear I Feel Love until the early 1990s? Yeah, I didn't. I can't remember hearing that one at all during the 80s. So with Donna Summer, like I said, I heard a couple of tracks here and there on the radio now and then, and I thought, yeah, it's okay. But it was nothing that I was hunting down. I didn't buy any singles with Donna Summer. It wasn't until she was produced by Stock Aitken and Waterman in 1989. And what was the album called? Another Time or Another Place. Yeah, I should have remembered that. Anyhow, great album. I love that one and the singles that were released from that album. Simply stunning. And I think that's where my interest in Donna Summer really started. And probably a year or 2 years after, I heard I Feel Love for the first time. And it was in a club in Copenhagen, actually. I do remember it very vividly. I was like, what is this track? You know, that classic bass, that synth bass. And I feel love, I feel love. And I was like, I heard this one before, but it wasn't Donna Summer at all. No, because I heard it with Bronski Beat. Probably in 1985 or something like that. And I love that one. I had the 12-inch, but I was like, is that a cover? I know, I was... And a friend of mine said, don't you know Donna Summer's I Feel Love? And he was equally stunned as you probably are. And I was like, no, I thought it was Bronski Beat. Yeah, that's how naive I was and how uninformed I was. But yeah, I was absolutely stunned because I love the Bronski Beat version together with Mark Almond, but this was something else. And when my friend said, it is recorded, is it 77 or 78? Yeah, something like that. And I was like, really? So, because, yeah, it was during the disco era, but it sounds like it's from the future. Absolutely. Once again, it's Giorgio Moroder who produced this one. And I was like, wow. And that's when I really checked out Donna Summer's back catalogue. I remember getting some compilation album from a secondhand shop, and it had some really great tracks. I Feel Love, of course, Love to Love You, and Our Love, and the list goes on. MacArthur Park, The Sweet, absolutely stunning stuff she did with that one. Her rendition of that is, whew. Then someone told me that there are a really long version of I Feel Love. And I said, really? Like, you know, an extended version? Yeah, an extended version. That's how I came acquainted with the name Patrick Cowley. Because this is the Patrick Cowley nearly 16-minute long mix of I Feel Love, the mega mix as it's called here. And you also get on the B-side the edited mix that's only 8 minutes and 50 seconds. Absolutely stunning stuff. And you would think a track like this, where something that you heard over and over again over the years, that you got tired of it. But I never got tired of I Feel Love. I love that groove. It's hypnotizing, absolutely fantastic, futuristic disco, high energy stuff. This, absolutely. And what Patrick Cowley does with this one, it is beyond that. It's turned up to 11. He incorporates some of his characteristic sounds from his synthesizers, which is overlaid from the original track, and some of his drum machines and some space effects and things like that. And he managed to pull off nearly 16 minutes of I Feel Love. I could have listened to even more of it because it's even more hypnotizing than the original track. It is a wonderful roller coaster of a mix that he created with this one. And of course, I could talk in length about about Patrick Cowley as well. A wonderful pioneer, legend when it comes to both disco and high energy records, both as a producer for people like Sylvester, classic disco, and also his own projects as well under his own name. But sadly, we lost him way too early from complications of AIDS. But back in the day, he actually passed away the same year that this one was released, 1982. What a legacy he left behind him. If you're interested in early, brilliant electronica, high energy disco, or just plain wonderful electronic music, go and check out some more Patrick Cowley, and certainly his remix of Donna Summer's I Feel Love. Absolutely great stuff. Before I move on to the next one, let's have a look at the label. Yeah, this was issued on Casablanca label, of course. A big disco label of the late 1970s and I believe into the early 80s before they became bought up by a bigger company, which I can't remember now. Was it Polydor or something like that? Anyhow, big disco hits with Casablanca and also Kiss. For this next one, we're going to go to 1989 and the legend, the icon that is Madonna. Yeah. Express Yourself came out this year, and of course a big year for her. She had a new album out, Like a Prayer, and I also believe she had I'm Breathless out, which was more or less the soundtrack to the Dick Tracy movie, which she also starred in. But yeah, Like a Prayer was a really big one. But just like Depeche Mode previously, there's so much to choose from when it comes to great 12-inch mixes, really. But this one always had a special place in my heart. It's by far my favorite track from that album. I love the single version of it. It's such an energized song. It's had a really positive message. And to build on to this, I also saw my first Madonna concert in 1990 in Gothenburg. And that was quite the event. A very hot day, I remember that. We stood there waiting for hours before she came on stage, but it was worth all of our miseries leading up to that when she entered the stage and opened up with Express Yourself. And I think she called out, hello Gothenburg, or hello Sweden, do you believe in love? And by that time I was in seven heaven. Absolutely one of, if not the best concert I ever went to. So I'm a bit biased when it comes to this song. It's always have a very special place in my heart in connection to both being a great song, of course, but also that concert experience. So that's why I stuck with this one. But like I said, I could have chosen probably 20 others, but I landed on this. Great song to begin with in its 7-inch mix. It is great, and the 12-inch, of course, takes it up to 11 once again. And it is all thanks to the legend that is Shep Pettibone. Yeah, legendary remixer. He's done works for Pet Shop Boys, Depeche Mode, Janet Jackson, and of course Madonna as well, just to mention a few. Absolutely a legend of a remixer. And I remember every time I saw his name after I heard the first couple of remixes he's done for Madonna, I think it was through True Blue and going forward, I was always like, oh, it's a Shep Pettibone mix. It didn't matter what artist it was. I was really curious to hear what he did with those tracks. And here he elevates Express Yourself to new heights. Absolutely fantastic. It's a bit of a houseier take on Express Yourself. He stripped down a lot of the elements from the original, or at least the 7 mix of this one, or the 7-inch mix. But it really accentuates the drums in this one. They utilized a Roland 909 drum machine, which got a really good punch to it, and you can really feel the punch in this mix for sure. And this is one you really need to crank up also to 11 on whatever system you're playing it on. Absolutely stunning stuff, and treats it really with respect. We can still have all those elements from the original version with the verses and the choruses, but like any good remixer, he just restructure it, makes it into, like I said, a house track, and some of the elements that were perhaps buried a bit in the background, he lifts up a bit, and we can hear them for the first time in a whole new setting, really. Absolutely stunning stuff. And it's called the Non-Stop Express mix that we get on the A side, and it's nearly 8 minutes long. Absolutely bliss. And on the B side, we got Express Yourself, the stop and go dubs, nearly 11 minutes of that. And I also love that. So this is really the complete package when it comes to Madonna's Express Yourself. Fantastic stuff. And also, for anyone who's interested, it of course came on the Sire label, like so many of the other Madonna records around that time. Yeah, so that was Madonna.
Don't for second best, baby. Put your love to the test. You know you got to make him express how it feels, and baby, then you know your love is real.
And for the next one, we're going to move forward a bit, just a couple of years, to 1991. And a band that I was familiar with under another name. They were called I Start Counting during the 1980s. And they had great singles like Letters to a Friend, and the list goes on. They were signed to Mute, and I thought it was absolutely great synth pop. But when we entered the 1990s, they changed their name to Fortran 5. Yeah. And I know it's not much to look at really when it comes to cover. My copy happens to be a promotional copy from Mute Records. But I will do all of us a favor by dropping the original cover here, so you will see what it looked like. This in its original came on the album Blues, I think it was called. I have it here. I should have pulled it, but I didn't. But yeah, a great album. And on that album, the track in question, Heart on the Line, is a bit of a mellow, synth, poppy kind of track. Not really what I would consider a house track or even a techno track. But on this 12-inch, we do get 4 remixes, really good ones. But the one that I want to lift up for this video is the Voodoo Child mix by Moby. So he, like so many of the others I presented here tonight, when it comes to 12-inch singles, he treats it with the utmost respect. He keeps all the wonderful elements from the original, or most of them at least. The most crucial one being the voice, the singing in this one, which is absolutely hypnotizing, and the choruses. But what he adds is a frenetic bass line. So as soon as you put this one on, it's straight in your face. It's time to go to the club. It's time to go dancing. This is electronica of its highest order, for sure. And also to mention the 7-inch that was released along with this one. It was actually a Vince Clarke mix, and he also stepped it up a notch from the album version. It's an absolutely brilliant take on Heart on the Line as well. So I think that's, in my book, the second best remix of these ones. But yeah, do check out the Moby mix, the Voodoo Child mix of Fortran 5's Heart on the Line. You won't regret it, I promise you.
I trust. 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 It was a risk I didn't have to take. It was a move, but every thought I made, I wasn't sure if you changed your mind. Once that I laid my heart on the line, 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 laid my heart on the line.
Yeah, so that was 1991. We're now going to go back in time again, but not too far back in time, because we're talking about Kim Wilde. Yeah, she had an album out. This is 1988, if I'm not mistaken. I should know this. But she released an album, which we can see down here. Close. Yeah, a great album. Some might say her best album ever. Yeah, but it's got some great singles taken from that album. And one of the best is Never Trust a Stranger. Yes. This is one 12-inch that immediately came to my mind when I started doing this list as well. I already mentioned the number one, the one I say for last here, but this is the other one that I also had in the back of my mind all the time, because I always loved this mix. And it didn't disappoint in 2026 either. Never Trust a Stranger is a great track to begin with, a very reverb heavy track. We're talking the 80s here, of course, but there is a point to all of this reverb, and it makes the whole track sound bigger than life. Kim's voice sounds bigger than life. She's never been better than this, really, in my opinion. It is absolutely fantastically produced by her brother Ricky Wilde. And this particular 12-inch is mixed by Ricky Wilde and Julian Mendelssohn. And what they did with this one is nothing short of genius, in my book. It starts out with like the guitar riff. I do believe the original single also starts with that. It's a sampled guitar or something. It just repeats. But it's broken down then to just the synth bass. It's very, very minimal start to it. And then it starts to build, very similar actually to the Frida single as well. But then eventually it leads up to what we could say was the 7-inch version, really, of Kim Wilde's Never Trust a Stranger. But then all of a sudden, during the crescendo of one of the choruses, her voice just rings out, drenched in reverb, of course, and all we're left with is just that single bass line again, that synth bass just pulsing along. And then all of a sudden Kim's voice appears again from nothing, really. And then it becomes this percussion-heavy track that just goes on to the end of the record. And they did the right thing here, in contrast to the Frida single that I was talking about earlier. They left some breathing room for the DJs at the end. It's just percussions going for a while, so the DJ have time to mix over to the next record. But so, believe me, this is a record that you don't want to interrupt until it comes near the end, really. It's nothing that you want to just mix over. This needs to be heard from start to finish basically. absolutely stunning. I love this 12-inch. And not only that mix that you will get on this one, it is a double bonus one, because if you flip it over, you're going to get the track What You're Gonna Do, which I believe was the original B-side as well, but you also get You Came, another hit single from Kim Wilde from this era, from Close. And this time around, it's 7 minutes of pure bliss, remixed by none other than Chet Pettibone. Yes, and he does a wonderful, wonderful job on You Came here. So you basically get 2 outstanding mixes on this one, and that's why it's here on my list. Kim Wilde, Never Trust a Stranger. And yes, for anyone, aficionados out there, this came on this beautiful MCA label, Rainbows and Clouds. Yeah.
Like a tiger, you hunted and tracked me down. Savaged my soul and took over control. And then when you choose all the love you found, you left without trace, not a note or a single goodbye. I thought it was love, I thought it was heaven.
And now we are close to the end. The top 2, well, I'm not ranking here. It's only the last one that is my true number 1 here. The other ones are equally good, right? Yeah. But we are down to the last 2 here. And the next one I'm going to present to you is also a record from 1984. Well, seems to be a good year around there, 1983, 1984, at least for me. It just turned out that way. I didn't plan it. I'm talking about Propaganda. Yes, and the first single, Dr. Mabuse. So a German band consisting of 5 members. I know there's only 4 here, but by the time they released Mabuse, it was Michael Mertens, Ralf Dörper, Claudia Brücken, and Susanne Freitag. And Andreas Thein, because there was a 5th member, but I think he abandoned the group after the first single, but he's not pictured here, unfortunately. But he was a member, if I'm not mistaken. So anyhow, Dr. Mabuse, produced by Trevor Horn to perfection, of course. Absolutely stunning stuff. But if you're familiar with the label they were on, which is Sang Tum Tum, the same label that housed Art of Noise and Frankie Goes to Hollywood. I think those were really the 3 top acts that they had: Propaganda, Art of Noise, and Frankie, of course. If you're familiar with this label, that's what I was going to say. You also know that they didn't only release 1 12-inch single for each of their singles. No, they released 2, or sometimes 3, and sometimes 4 different versions of the same song. And this is no exception at all. So you could pick up this one with this wonderful sleeve with them here. And we got the back here with some liner notes and things like that. We actually got a listing of the band here as well, who the different members are. This one is called the 13th Life Mix. Sometimes there was a sticker. I've seen some of these with a sticker on it. It says 13th Life Mix. So that's what you get on this one. It's 6 minutes and 30 seconds. So 6.5 minutes long, roughly. And then you could also pick up another one which looked like this. This is a true maxi single. This is the one I bought back in the day. Probably picked it up in 1985, to be honest. I didn't pick it up in 1984. But it looked like this. A beautiful artwork here, actually made by Anton Corbijn. He drew this hand. And on the back, we can see some stills from the video that he shot for Dr. Mabuse as well. Early work by Anton Corbijn here. Really nice stuff. So, when you pick this one up, you could have one of 3 mixes. So the one we just looked at, the 13th Life, it could be in here. You never knew. Because back here it doesn't say anything about any mixes. It just says Das Testamente des Mabuse, and we got Femme Fatale, which is a cover of a Velvet Underground song on the B-side. And then you had The Ninth Life of Dr. Mabuse as well, which is a shorter mix of Dr. Mabuse. But all of them said Das Testamente des Mabuse. But when you bought this one, like I did, and you pulled it out, this happens to be on the Island label, this one, because it's a maxi single pressed in Germany. It does say Das Testamente des Mabuse, and I don't know if you can see it, but it does actually have a track length there as well. It says 10 minutes and 14 seconds. So you're like, I'm in for a ride here. But when I put that on, it's just the 13th Life mix. So I already had that one with this, right? So I got the same mix. So I was a bit confused because I was like, it does sound similar. There might be some differences, but there wasn't. So it turns out it was a bit of a gamble, just like Mabuse himself in the song, a gambler. When you pick this one up, because you could get the 13th Life mix, but you could also get the 10-minute 14 mix, which is said on the label. But I do believe all these labels were like misprinted. It says 10-14 on every one of them. If you're lucky, you got the 10-minute version. But you could also get another one, a 9-minute, and I believe 45-second or 50 seconds or something like that. Very similar to the 10-minute one. I think it just fades out a bit earlier than that one, but they are very similar mixes. So it was really a gamble. And the reason I know this is because a friend of mine also picked this one up at the time. And when we were listening to his version, I was like, this is different, definitely different from mine. So it turns out he got the 10-minute version. Yeah, I eventually got that version as well. I found it in just a generic sleeve, but on the Sanctum Tomb label, as you can see. So I now got it. And to be honest, I haven't really timed it. It could be the 9-minute 50-second one instead of a 10, but like I said, they're very similar. Anyhow, a long rant around this, but what I want to say with this is that whatever remix you pick up of Dr. Mabuse, you will get a great remix. They are a bit different, but they are all great remixes. But the one I want to highlight is actually the 10-minute one, because it's got an added element to it in the middle of a song where there is a breakdown, where there is a lot of strings playing, because they did some string arrangements for Dr. Mabuse as well, and there are some different outtakes in the middle of that mix, and it's very Bernard Herrmann-esque, like wink wink wink, a lot of tension in it. It's building up the tension, and once we reach that climax of it, the chaos that breaks out from this, from all the strings and the sampled noises and all of that, it just like explodes, and we're back to that pulsing beat of the original Dr. Mabuse, and it is just mesmerizing stuff for sure. And that's why it's on here, because the track in itself, the original Dr. Mabuse, if you pick it up on a 7-inch, it is stunning stuff, and the 12-inch just elevates it to new heights. It is simply wonderful stuff. And still today, when I put on either of these mixes, but especially that 10-minute one, I still get goosebumps from it. It's so good. we now reached my number one. Yeah, the only one I can rank to say truly is my number one 12-inch of all times. And we're going to stick with 1984, because in the summer of 1984, I can say that I for real discovered Frankie Goes to Hollywood and Two Tribes. They, of course, already released the year before their debut single, Relax. And I heard that one at the time, and I wasn't really that impressed. I thought it was okay. But then I heard this one somewhere in the summer of 1984, and I still to this day remember my reaction to it. I was like, what is this? And it was in combination to seeing them doing it live on Top of the Pops at the time. I did a special episode around why I could see Top of the Pops in Sweden. It was all thanks to a friend of mine and his sister, who used to live in London and brought home VHS tapes. So I saw the performance of Frank Goes to Hollywood doing Two Tribes on Top of the Pops. And I've heard this one before on the radio, and I was a bit intrigued, but seeing them live and hearing it, it was like hearing it for the first time. They leapt out from the screen and grabbed hold of me and said, "You love this. You never heard anything like this before." And they were right. I never heard anything like this before. I couldn't really, my mind was just a mess, really. I was like, what is this? I don't know if I love it or hate it. I was really conflicted because, at the time I wasn't very much into rock. I thought electric guitars and all that, it was nonsense. It should be electronic music or pop music, but this was neither or. It was a bit of rock, a bit of disco, and a bit of pop, a bit of everything, really. I never heard anything like this. And we're talking about the 7-inch version now. That blew me away. I was hooked from that on, from that listening. And that's really what started my collection, or collecting records, really, for real. I'm getting carried away here. I'm worked up, but it is amazing stuff. They were the gateway for me to start collecting records, and of course collecting Frankie Goes to Hollywood and most other things Sang Tum Tum, really. Yeah. Then, a bit later on in the summer of 1984, I came across the 12-inch single of this one. I was like, yes, I have to pick that one up. I haven't heard that one up until that point. So I picked this one up. Bigger, better, of course, and it was. It is absolutely stunning stuff. It is Two Tribes. Why do I have such a hard time saying this? The Annihilation remix. Annihilation. We'll stick with that. I'll put it up here, just in case you didn't know what I was talking about. I don't know why I have such a hard time pronouncing that one. It's my Swedishness coming through. But anyhow, it is that mix, and I think it's nearly 9 minutes long, or just clocking in on 9 minutes, and it was so different from the 7-inch. I never heard anything like this. So it starts out with this air raid siren going off, and then we have someone impersonating Reagan as well, and I think can't remember his surname, Chris something from Spitting Image. I learned that years after the fact, and that was him doing that. And I think Paul Morley wrote down what he was going to say as Ronald Reagan, in Ronald Reagan's voice. And it turns out that he took some parts from speeches by Hitler and Fidel Castro and mix them up. So that's what we can hear on this mix. And I thought it was his sense of humor, really, that he could make Ronald Reagan say all of these things that especially what Hitler said. Because, yeah. Anyhow.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me present Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Possibly the most important thing this side of the world.
It's enough to make you wonder sometimes if you're on the right planet.
And then all of a sudden, the voice of the actor Patrick Allen comes through, which reads out a very matter-of-fact statement to us. It's something taken from a public information film about if nuclear war were to happen and you were in the bomb shelter.
When you hear the air attack warning, you and your family must take cover at once. Do not stay out of doors. If any member of the family should die whilst in the shelter, put them outside, but remember to tag them first for identification purposes.
It was very matter-of-fact, like the information film kind of things. And it was really eerie to hear, and still very eerie today, because it's very much of the times nowadays as well, unfortunately. But especially in 1984, we were living under this nuclear threat, really. We had the Soviet Union on one side and America on the other. And like I said, it's not much different today, unfortunately. But yeah, so that voice from this information piece, really, of what to do in the case of nuclear war, that was really eerie to hear, but mesmerizing at the same time, because it was all conducted to a disco beat, really. It was made for the clubs. It's a hard banging track, this one. And I can highly recommend, if you haven't done so yet, to either read or listening to the audiobook of Trevor Horn's memoirs. I listened back to that one. I bought it as an audiobook, and he talks in length about both Relax and Two Tribes and how they made it. And it turns out they made the 12-inch, the Annihilation remix. Sorry for pronunciation once again. They made this one first, and then that was the basis really for how they should mix the 7-inch version. So this one came first. And the voices of Patrick Allen in this case, he was actually the one who provided the voice for an official information tape or information reel about if nuclear war was to come and what you should do in that case. He was the voice for that original one. And I'm not going to tell you the whole story here, but the short one is that Paul Morley got hold of a cassette with these recordings, these original recordings of Patrick Allen, and gave it to Trevor Horn, that thought it was a really good idea to use it on the Two Tribes remix, for the 12-inch remix. And but he didn't want to use the original material, so he actually called Patrick Allen. So he came into the studio and re-recorded all of these bits. And some of the other outtakes from these sessions with Patrick Allen, you can hear on the flip side of this one. It's not listed here, but it's called The Last Voice.
Mine is the last voice that you will ever hear. Do not be alarmed.
Very doomy track, really, more eerie than what we heard in the main mix. And one thing that always fascinated me with this remix, because I heard it so many times over the years, it's my absolute favorite 12-inch mix, is the way they manipulated his voice, because you can hear on this recording, on the Annihilation remix, that they stop the tape. It sounds like they're stopping a tape with his voice on it, like sometimes. And Trevor Horn actually confirms this in his memoirs as well. That's actually what they did, because they couldn't feed the rudimentary samplers that they had at the time with all of his the talking that he was doing. So they had him on tape, and they just tried to sync that to the beat. And when they needed to stop it, they just stopped the tape. So you can hear that at a couple of points on this mix as well.
If your grandmother or any other member of the family should die, well...
But I've been going on too long for this one, but I'm so passionate about this one. It is my absolutely favorite one, and I love the cover of this one as well. Once again, Anton Corbijn has taken this photo in Moscow. Perfect setting there. And then on the back, we got the two hypocrites, Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, standing there being all hypocritical. And we do get Two Tribes, the Annihilation remix, and War, Hide Yourself on the back, so very much keeping in the theme. War, which was, of course, a cover of a song from the 70s from a band that I can't remember now, but they do a really good cover of that one. And 1 February Friday, a shortened version of that one, which was sort of the original B-side to Two Tribes. It's basically the other lads of Frankie sitting around talking to Paul Morley. And it's quite funny, actually. And there was also a second 12-inch released, which was called Carnage, which is also a brilliant, brilliant one. Incorporates a lot of the voices that I was just talking about from the Annihilation remix. I think I got it there, guys. And some of the voices from the original B-side 1 February Friday. And it's a stunning mix as well, but it's just second best to me. And the cover here, by the way, is still taken from the video directed by Godley and Cream for Two Tribes. And if you haven't checked that one out, go and do that. It's absolutely brilliant music video stuff. And I didn't mention that on the Annihilation remix earlier, but on the back we had some statistics around the liner notes as well, around the nuclear arsenal in both Soviet Union and America as well. And the statistics continue here. Always a lot to read when it comes to Sanctum Tam Records. A lot of it I didn't understand, but it was fascinating nonetheless. And continuing on to Two Tribes, if you were lucky, you could pick up a third 12-inch, which was called the Hibakusha Mix. And it was issued in a company sleeve, as you can see here. And it's also a superb mix, of course. And then at last, you could venture even further and pick up the cassette single, which had a lengthy mix. It was one continuous mix, really, of all the different tracks that we have on all of these different iterations of the 12-inch single, all under the name Keep the Peace. Unfortunately, I don't have that cassette single, but it has been reissued on both vinyl and CD in the recent years, so I have them in my collection. But yeah, that's it. I want to expand further on this because it has to be saved for another video. I already talked way too much about my favorite 12-inch single of all time. Two Tribes by Frankie Goes to Hollywood, the Annihilation remix. I got it.
Condemn me. Condemn me. Condemn me. History will absolve. Singing, this'll be the day that I die.
If your grandmother or any other member of the family should die whilst in the shelter, put them outside. But remember to tag them first for identification purposes. If your grandmother or any other member of the family should die whilst in the shelter, put them outside, but remember to tag them first for identification purposes.
And all of it presented on the Sanctum Tam label with Lenin on one side and very fittingly Reagan there on the other side with a hole in his forehead. Very nicely done. Yeah, so that was it. That was my 10 12 inches, my absolute favorite 12 inches of all time of the history of universe and all of that. Yeah, that might change. So if you ask me again in 6 months time, for example, the rest of them, the 9 other records, they might have changed for other records, but my true number one will always be my number one, Frankie Goes to Hollywood's Two Tribes. But now, like I said in the beginning, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about my choices? But most importantly, I want to see your lists, your top 10 lists, your favorite 12 inches of all time. I could have done some honorable mentions here because I had some that were very close to make it to this list, but I'll save that for another Friday. Perhaps next Friday I can show you those. It's just 4 or 5 of them really, but very interesting as well. But anyhow, I now want to thank you for sticking with me for this very lengthy video with me presenting and japping away about my favorite 10-12 inches of all time. Yeah. So until next time, I want you all to take care of yourself and please stay cool, keep playing that music, and as usual, I'm of course going to bid you a very heartfelt Swedish adieu. And here's Danny.
The movie rolls on, there ain't no more love scenes, the romance is gone. It's a one-man show, it's moving real slow, but it's picking up speed as I'm turning the key. I'm coming up, coming up, coming up.